Welcome to A Leader Story, where we explore the unique paths of extraordinary leaders. In each episode, we ask the same 7 questions to our guests, revealing the diverse journeys and insights that shape their success. Join us as we uncover the stories that make each leader's experience truly one of a kind. Today, we are honored to have Anusha Valliappan, a seasoned data engineer leader with nearly 20 years of experience. She's currently leading data engineering at Meta, with a career that includes key roles at Infosys, Western Digital, and Oculus VR. Her leadership has been pivotal in building robust data systems and driving innovation. Join us as we explore her insights and experiences in leading high-performing teams in the tech industry. So let's get right into it. Anusha, what is one decision you made that was a turning point for your leadership?
Hey Joe, it's so good to be here. And I'm glad you asked this question because it is not just a big turning point in my leadership, but in fact in my entire career. So I joined Oculus in around 2016, and that's when Facebook had acquired just Oculus, and I was the first data engineer. And then, like anybody else, like us engineers, I was pretty thrilled and I was jump right in and build pipelines and visualizations and whatnot. And quickly, the team was starting to grow, and we started hiring a few more engineers. And naturally, since I have been there for a while, people started looking up to me as a leader. And organically, I transitioned to a leadership role. And very quickly, my team started growing. And the first thing that kicked in was insecurity because I'm doing less and less of actual data engineering work. And I have been a data engineer all my life. And this was a huge change for me. And then, in addition to that, um, we were doing major product launches, and my team was growing bigger, and the fear of failure started kicking in. And I worry that we may not be able to meet the deliverables, so I would work extra hours, try to bridge the gaps that my team was not able to. And in the end, nobody was happy. I got burnt out, my pulse scores were regressing, and my team was very unhappy, and I failed.
Wow.
I failed as a manager at that time. So later, I took a step back and I decided maybe leadership is not for me. And so I changed to an engineer again. And I joined Facebook this time, which was the Facebook Growth, which was forming a new product at that time. And I joined as an IC and had fun for a year trying to build products. And again, the same thing happened. I organically gravitated towards being a leader. And this time, I learned from my mistake. I said, I'm not going to do what I did last time. So I built a team from ground up with the best talent. I mastered the art of delegation. I fostered the community of, sense of ownership and accountability. And now I'm proud, truly proud, to lead a team of like 15 plus data engineers, and we're working on one of the core products at Meta.
That's awesome. I really appreciate the transparency there because, I think failure is a huge part of the journey or the story of any leader's life because if you're doing important things, failure is going to be a part of it, right? What's that?
Exactly. It's okay to fail.
100%. Totally agree. Yep. Awesome. So moving into the next question, Anusha, how do you foster innovation and creativity within your team?
That's a very good question, Joe. So I do it in a few ways. The first one being the obvious, encouraging curiosity. And the key thing here is listening. I listen to my teammates, and that inevitably will empower them to build whatever they are curious about. That's one thing. The second thing is turning problems into possibilities. We all complain. We have these mundane tasks that we all hate to do, but unfortunately, we have to do as part of our job. We cannot get around it. So, in my one on ones, when my teammates come to me and be like, Anusha, this is so boring, I cannot do this. And then I ask them, like, hey, if you have the power and all the resources that you need, how would you solve this problem? And immediately, an automation project will be created out of it. And they get excited, they will build a bot that does a bunch of things on its own. And there, the impact has landed, and not just that employee, but it will also get shared with all the other teams across Meta, and that's a huge impact. So that's another way I try to foster innovation. And of course, the last one is trying to be transparent. As a leader, I try to share the entire analytical org, or from the leadership point of view, what are all the problems that we are trying to solve. And this will inevitably empower my team to be like, hey, I would like to contribute to this problem. I can think of this way to solve it. And sure, that also helps them to build something new.
That's really good. That's really
Yeah.
good. I appreciate the actionable things that people can implement in their leadership skills. Anusha, how do you balance driving results with maintaining a positive team culture?
So here's my motto, Joe. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. This is a saying that I recently saw in King Richard movie, and it like truly resonated with me. Planning is the key to drive results, in my opinion. So, for example, right now, every half we do road mapping, wherein we brainstorm a bunch of ideas that will contribute to company or product goals. And so, from those brainstormed ideas, we try to form teams, which will eventually become a goal for my employees, for my team members. And these goals, I'll try to make sure it matches with their strengths, because Facebook's Meta's culture is to double down on the strength. And once you do this, like 90% of your job is done. Like my team is empowered, they know exactly what they are supposed to do. And another thing I'm pretty passionate about is the work life balance, which is key in my team. I have led multiple work streams across Meta that focuses on work life balance. And one of the common complaints that I hear from my team members is too much time spent in meetings. And they don't have enough focus time and a lot of distraction. So once in a while, in my one-on-ones with my team members, I do a calendar cleanse. We go over all the meetings in a week, try to identify what are the absolute necessary ones and what are the ones that are optional. And we try to move things around. And this will give them focus time to actually work on their goals. But there is one meeting that I truly stress for all of them to attend, which is my team meeting. That is where we all have true fun. We share our highlights, our learnings, we learn from each other, and once in a while we even play games. So
I
that's
like that.
where the fun happens. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I like the concept of the calendar cleanse. That's really
Yes.
good.
Okay.
Anusha, leading us into the next question. Can you describe a moment when you had to make a tough ethical decision?
Yeah, this is a hard one. As leaders, one of our core responsibilities is to make such decisions. And when it comes to systems or strategies or processes, I can manage them. It's fine. But when these decisions involve people, it gets hard. And I want to acknowledge the fact that it never gets easy, no matter how many times you have done this. And especially when it happens around letting people go or big org change where we have to move people around, that is very hard for me. So the way I try to handle it is I take the time to process the situation. And then once I have processed and digested, I try to lay down the facts and try to figure out what are all the options that I have. And 99% of the time, someone is going to be hurt. Someone is going to be unhappy, which is okay. So the question that I ask myself here is, what is the right thing to do? How will this affect my company? End of day, we are all employees. So with that in mind, I take the decision at that moment. And when I look back at the decisions that I have made in the past, Joe, I still feel good about it. And if I ever had to make that in that situation again, I would still make the same decision.
Yeah, that's good. Leading into the next question, Anusha. What role does feedback play in your leadership? How do you both give and receive it?
Feedback, I would say, is part of my professional DNA. And Meta is truly big on feedback, and I encourage my team members, my stakeholders to give direct feedback. And I don't give me feedback sandwich. Just be transparent, be direct. And sometimes I even joke that like I'm pretty thick-skinned. I can take feedback. And when I receive feedback, it's exciting for me because I can grow as a leader. But giving feedback, especially constructive feedback, took me some time to learn the nuances involved. It's hard, especially you don't know how that person is going to react to the feedback that you're going to give it to them. So there are a few methods that I learned from my mentors, and one of the method that I still follow to date is called the PECAN method, where P stands for problem, C is context or cause of the problem, A is action, and N is next step. So I try to structure my conversation in this method instead of doing a word vomit. So I go into the meeting and say, this is the problem. What caused the problem? What are the action that I need from you? And what are the next steps? But I still follow these methods, which will help me deliver feedback. And most of the time, the outcome was positive. The person who got the feedback was like, yeah, I agree. And so that was something that I would like to share.
Yeah, I like that. That's really good. So moving into the next question, I think this plays well. Anusha, how do you continue to grow and develop as a leader?
So self-awareness is the key for me, Joe. I try to identify my strengths and my weaknesses. And I try to double click on my strengths. And weaknesses, I did watch Stacey Atwater's leader story, and she mentioned something that truly resonated with me was be uncomfortable. I try to identify opportunities where I'm uncomfortable and try to double click on that. And the next thing is I'm passionate about mentoring people. I seek out opportunities where I can mentor people. And during that course, I try to learn from them too. Or if I don't know how to help them, we together try to solve a problem, brainstorm ideas. And that will help me learn and grow as a leader. At Meta, I'm surrounded by great minds, great talent, and I'm like the sponge. And whenever I'm in a meeting or in a hallway conversation, I try to observe, figure out what are their strengths, and I try to learn from it. And of course, when I look up at leaders like you or all the leaders that you have interviewed in the leader story, they are all truly inspiring. And of course, the last one, which is the obvious, is the leadership books, podcast, all the articles in LinkedIn, whatnot. All of these things together help me grow as a leader. And I'm still learning. I still have a long way to go.
Yeah, so leading into the next question, you mentioned podcast and books. And it's funny because I say, what book has influenced, but everyone that I've spoken to so far, it's definitely books. But so what leadership book has influenced you the most and why?
So obviously there are many books, but I would want to recommend something a little different this time. I would want to recommend this book called It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work, written by founders of a software company called Basecamp. So during my initial days at Meta, I was part of big product launches and my work-life balance was taking a toss. And so my manager recommended this book. And I want to recommend this to the younger generation of leaders, wherein it will truly help them to set their teams. For example, it talks about work-life balance, FOMO, or the JOMO, joy of missing out. It talks about managing your calendar. And these days, I notice a lot of people say that, my days are full of meetings. I have to work on the weekends, and it has become a thing now. And one of the chapters in this book focuses on 8 is enough and 40 is plenty. 8 hours, if you think about it, is actually a flight from Chicago to London. That's a long flight. And in that 8 hours, let's say while you're traveling, it feels like forever, and you check the time and you realize you're not even halfway there. And that's because you don't have any distractions. But at work, you have tons of distractions. You have all these hallway conversation, meetings, and breaks, and so this book talks how to handle these situations. And I would definitely want to recommend this book for younger generation of leaders while they're setting up their team.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a good one. That's one we haven't recommended before. So, and it's one I haven't heard of either. So I'm super interested to pick that one up. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's our last question. Thank you so much for your time. The point you are in your career and your journey is going to be super valuable to the folks that listen to this podcast that we're doing. But yeah, I really appreciate your time. And so, I'll just say it's cool to see your growth. Right.
Thank you, Joe.
When we met probably 10 years ago now, right?
Yeah,
at least
I was an engineer.
It's cool to see how you've excelled in your career. And I'll be honest, when you left the team, it hurt.
Thank you,
it goes
Joe.
back to the ethical decisions that we have to make,
Yeah.
right? You had to make the right choice for you and your career, and you did. and that's awesome. And so definitely, I'm not, and no guilt. I'm not saying it for that reason. I'm just highlighting it because other people have to make those choices. You may be happy on a team that you're on today, and you'll miss that team, or and I'm assuming that you had those same feelings.
Absolutely.
But career-wise, you may have to make that jump at some point to get outside of your box, outside of your comfort zone, and make those type of choices to excel and get to that next step. So super awesome to see where you've gotten, and looking forward to see what the next decade looks like for you.
Thank you, Joe, and thank
awesome.
you for inviting me to this leader story. Out of all the people that I'm truly honored, Joe.
Definitely,
for thinking of me
mine.
And inviting. Yes, it was
a
pleasure talking with you.
It was great to have Anusha as a guest today. I really appreciated her transparency around fear of failure. There's a lot of lessons and insights to be gleaned from her leader story. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's edition of A Leader Story. If you enjoyed the episode, please like and subscribe to help more people discover these inspiring leadership stories. And don't forget to tune in every Tuesday for new episodes. See you next week, and keep writing your own unique leadership story.